Hello and welcome to live post-match reaction of Houston versus Utah, and we have another upset this weekend. I think it is fair to say, with this game finishing 30-36. I went with the home side, but Utah came out on top. Joining me to go through all of the action is Tony Rednell. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Just loving watching this rugby up here.
And
wanted just to, as you can tell, I just wanted to celebrate a little premiership victory for the Saracens today. To my friend Allison. Yes, there you are, over the Exeter Rugby Chiefs.
You just want to rub it in.
My friend Allison in London. There you go. No, great stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately,
right.
I've not watched it yet. Unfortunately, I don't think it was the spectacle that we were hoping it was going to be. But yeah, two top sides, and looking forward to catching up on that one. But
well, what a day for Chris Wiles, right? The American 2 tries, and the left winger scored the third one right at the end. Nathan Earl, he could have could have a hat trick on his last game. What a great tribute to a great guy, and a guy who's done a lot for American rugby for sure.
And any updates on the rumours that he might join Major League Rugby?
Gosh, it came out about 2 weeks ago. Both he and Foden from Northampton. We've heard a little more about Foden maybe going into New York, but I have not heard about Wiles. So that would be a great addition for the league next year. But he might be ready to kick it in a little bit. But at 34, man, he's still got the gun. So I'd love to see him play.
Scoring 2 tries in a top professional league final. Yeah, he can still do a job for a Major League Rugby team. That's for certain. Anyway,
no doubt.
Getting on to
and what do you the things he can bring in the thing he can bring in the locker room is one of the things these MLR teams are going to really value. So that's why it's great to get some of those marquee players in there.
Yeah, I think a player like Foden, with let's be honest, coming towards the end of his career, from a player point of view, but what he can bring is the experience. What does it mean to be a professional player? For us people who work in an office from 9 till 5, it basically looks like they turn up, do about half a day's work, and then go and have coffee because we see lots of coffee pictures on their Instagram. But there's a bit more to it than that, I'm fairly sure. So. That kind of what it actually means to be a professional player. And there are some players we see in New Zealand who initially you can see don't get it, and they have all the skills, they have all the ability, but you can see they just don't have the right attitude, and that attitude either changes or they drop out and don't make it.
Right.
And that's
what we're going to see here too.
Yep, exactly.
That's what we're going to see here too as well. It's great.
And so this game, I think, actually broke up into some chunks. I'm going to try and sort of talk about it in chunks rather than individual play-by-play like we tried before. But the first quarter...
Well, hopefully one of the chunks is about 60 to 75 minutes where both teams were trying to give it away. But I'm interested to listen to your chunks. So the coaches must have had heart attacks on the sidelines, both of them. The spilling the ball there about 70 to 75 minutes. Anyway, go ahead.
There were some coach killers throughout this, let's be honest. But there was also some lovely play. So the first 20 minutes, it looked like we were going to have an absolute scoring fest. We had, first off, Houston got themselves good continuity, kicked 3 and scored a try. Just for Utah to come back, score 2 tries, and we were well above a point a minute at that point. And then we had another try by Houston, and it just looked like it was going to be a scoring fest at that first.
Absolutely, I think it was between the first 2 Utah tries, responding to the quick Houston penalty, and then their try. It looked like the oceans were parting for a couple of those inside backs for Utah, and then one guy made kind of a saving tackle, and I think he spilled it over the goal line or something, or there would have been another try for Utah. And again, speaking to last night's point, I hope we can get the rugby evangelist Grant Cole on the show. I know he did the game today. He did the announcing with Dan Power. I'd love to hear what those conditions are. I heard it was 95 degrees. It rained 4 to 6 inches in the last week. So, there are mosquitoes just hatching left, right, and center on the, inside the grass. I mean, it has got to be miserable on that field. And I'd be really interested to hear from Grant his assessment of kind of what's going on the field with regards to the playing conditions from the weather. That ball just must be real slick, and it's got to be where we're seeing these handling errors in the tight stuff.
And we've had two games now down in Texas over the last 2 days, where it's both been on grass pitches rather than the artificial turf pitches, which we've seen on other grounds. And as you say, it's been hot, it's been humid. We had a lot of handling errors last night. Today, the handling errors were much more one-sided. Actually, I think Houston, the home team, were the team that struggled with handling errors. And if we look at my stats now, my stats aren't going to be perfect. I'm probably going to miss one or two, but I made a count of 6 scrums to Houston and 11 to Utah. That's a lot of scrums in the game to give up to a team. Mm-hmm. So there were definitely some handling issues there for Houston, which let them down this evening. You say initially the defence for some of those tries was lacking. Houston, and they talked a lot about. It's not a term that we if you listen to people outside the states, they'll talk about counterattack. Obviously, in the States, you talk about transition. That transition defence by Houston, they just weren't getting themselves set, and that allowed Utah to get those 2 tries. Both in the first one, Jensen walked through 3 tackles because the guys weren't set, hit him properly. The second one was a pick and go because the pillar guy fanned out a bit too far. Yeah, there was potentially a little block, but you're going to get those all over the pitch, and there was basically defenders missing at that point. And Houston weren't getting their defence set, which is what caused those problems for them.
Well, I'm just confused about this whole thing. First of all, I'm just amazed at the games I'm not able to pick the victors. And I think we agree it's going to be a real tough, some of these away wins are tough asks. I mean, I had, on a neutral field, I'd have Utah winning that game pretty big. And I'm interested to hear why you thought that was an upset.
Again, we were talking, before the weekend, it's third against fourth. Yeah. I'm doing much more on this, on the high level kind of view, but it was third against fourth. They're on the same number of points. They both had like a home win or 2 wins and 2 losses at this stage, I think it was. They look like very even teams, hence the home team advantage should be enough to carry them home.
Fair enough.
So
fair enough.
I think both their wins were against Austin Elite at that point or something like that.
Right.
Who hadn't been looking that great. Obviously, their win on Friday night has changed things somewhat. So that both of them had only beaten the bottom team in the league. They'd only had, it was 1 win and 1 win, 2 losses. So they looked very evenly matched to me from a stats point of view, and hence why I went with the home side.
I was texting the owner of the Austin Elite after the game, just sent him a quick congratulations, Richard Osborne, because I know how passionate he is about this whole league and his team and everything. He's pretty happy, and we ended up speaking for 15 or 20 minutes, which was pretty cool. He's really delighted and told me a little bit about what's going on the Austin team. It was cool. So congratulations to those guys yesterday for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's put them up into third in the. Actually, sorry, we haven't got the points from today because Utah got a bonus point win, didn't they? So that puts them. Add that to their 9 points. That puts them up to 14. So they'll actually go up to third, and Austin will step back into fourth. But still in the playoff positions, which is great for them. So we had that. Both sides. I watched Utah a couple of weeks ago with you, and to me, it was a lot of their play was built around their 2 centres.
Yes.
But today, a lot of their play. Both their opening 2 tries by their forwards. They definitely felt they could get the upper hand on the forwards against Houston, didn't they?
Well, I'm fearful. I'd like to say I'm a big fan of the Utah team, but I'm a big fan of the Seawolves, so I can't say that. But so I would say, as a fan of the Seawolves, Utah's can instill some fear in you, and they've got a really nice team with a tremendous amount of potential. I still don't think they've hit their stride. Maybe last week they did and played a game that anyone could have won last week in Seattle. Despite the 21-point difference, Utah. and this brings the question for me about the weather again. Like personally witnessing the Seattle-Utah clash last week in very tolerable conditions, 62 degrees or 58 degrees, whatever it was, cloudy skies, perfect rugby conditions on a perfect turf pitch. The level of commitment and contact and energy seemed a lot higher than it was today. But you can't blame it on the players in this case. I'm trying to equate what a 95% humidity rugby day is for a professional rugby player. It's got to be absolutely brutal. And we'll certainly tell some tales here in the next few weeks as some of these teams go down to Texas. Yep,
that's true. A friend of the show, Seawolf Pod TV, is on the has dropped us a question. I heard as a result of this loss, Houston is now dead last in the MLR standings. Are they out the running for the playoffs point-wise? Perhaps something we should probably discuss at the end, but hey, why not? We'll just throw it in there now. That puts them on 8 points. Yeah, I'm trying to think whether they got the try bonus point today or not, whether they scored 4 tries. Just a quick check. 1, 2, 3. No, so I think they're going to come up with 3 tries rather than 4. It's going to leave them on 8 points, having played 5 games. So you've got to say that's a 4-point gap up to Austin in 4th place. It's going to be hard. They're not going to bridge that gap.
Very difficult. Yeah.
So,
but of course, again, I was lamenting this morning, Paul, after last night's show, where I was wondering why they didn't go for goal to get ahead by more than 3 tries, and of course, it was because they wanted the bonus point. Put the line out down and score the bonus point try. So I had that at the top of my mind this morning watching this game.
So we had that craziness for the first sort of 21 minutes, and then basically Houston's defense. Utah got on top, but Houston organised their defence well, and we had a period of 15 minutes where Utah were trying to score, but Houston's defence was playing really well. And I thought, okay, here we go. We've got another game like last night where defences are going to win this game. It wasn't to be, but they put in a big shift during that second quarter.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Both teams played hard again. I wish we could get Grant on to talk about the weather. Grant and our friends will talk tonight. I really would like to hear about the conditions. Just think about it, Paul. In Seattle, we never have as severe a weather day all year. Maybe once every 5 years, as they had to play in today. So it's going to be interesting next week when the Whales go down there. That's for sure. But so I'm still I'd really like to learn more about what the conditions are playing in a 95% humidity deal, because that's got to affect the quality of play. Has to.
It is. That's probably what's led to a lot of the knock-ons in that second half. To be fair, it's the Thai players. They had a big shift in there. We saw a big difference between the Houston and the Utah approach. Houston, in that after 2 minutes, took 3 points. Utah had multiple penalties and opportunities to take 3 points down in the Houston 22, but they didn't. Right. They kept going for the corner, or they kept taking the tap and goes, and they just weren't getting over the line. And it probably was after about 50 minutes of not getting over the line that they actually took the easy 3 with half time and the clock going against them. Right. So it finished at 20-17, and Houston would have been happy going in at half time, having put in that shift, probably to be in the lead, I think, at that point.
Absolutely. No, definitely. Utah has not played this season with the greatest, one of their strengths and one of their weaknesses is, the great thing is the weakness is they play without structure, but the strength is they play without structure because, they're athletes and, they're just great big runners, the 2 centers, Lasike and Lotte Pelotu, I think his name is. Just great, great runners with the ball. Patti coming in from 15. So they do a lot of, again, it's 15 guys playing 7s. And Houston did a good job knocking them down time and time again. Just like Seattle did last week, just keeping them off of that line. And then, as you said, Kurt Morath, the Tongan international, puts it over right before halftime. And absolutely, I thought I thought just the way the players looked, the way Utah started to walk a little bit in the last 10 minutes of the first half, at times when they should have been on the hop, on the front foot, they were kind of walking back. Everyone can pick their spots, but, when that ball's in play near you, you need to be, moving. a little bit of walking, but again, no complaints here. I'd really like to hear about how the conditions are affecting a 15s game like this. Yeah, I played a lot of sevens down there in, Houston, Texas, Corpus Christi in the summer of 1986 with OU, Oklahoma University, and we played in those conditions, and it was nuts. Sevens maybe 14 minutes at a time, and 80-minute games a whole different deal.
No, very true, and I think that the strength of the benches was something that was going to have to come into play, and this is one of the things we talked about last night. Is you're going to have to pick your 23, and not just pick necessarily your best 23 players, but that starting 15 has got to include 10 players who you're confident can go the full 80.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then the guys who come on, you're going to need one or two that, again, if someone gets injured early, they can put in a good 60-minute shift, because especially down in those conditions. One of the problems that Houston had all game was their restarts, both receiving them and kicking them, and that came to haunt them early in that second half, because that gave Utah an early platform. Vayanakola, the outside centre for Utah, takes it to the line, offloads to Patty, and he just dances home. And he is some player when given a bit.
He is a nice player. Yeah, no, absolutely. He's fun to watch. Definitely fun to watch. Plays with a tremendous energy. Got to love that.
And then we had the yellow card, which for a professional foul, Houston on the attack. You're thinking, here we go. This is Houston's big opportunity to come back into it. They get the 3-point penalty, but somehow Utah dominate that next 10 minutes.
Right. Totally. What appeared to be against the run of play. Yeah, it was. It just looked like mentally, and it turned out to be physically with drop balls and things like that in the second half. Both teams were giving it away. It was strange, really strange. And even mentally, Utah, up by a number of points, wanted to slow the game down, and I think Murat took a quick tap or something like that. Just not really thinking about, or maybe it's just the heat. I'm not going to critique. Those are some, just tough conditions.
It was tough, and even down to 14 men, there were I think about 3 scrums during that 10-minute period that Utah had to defend. We saw one of their wingers going in to be on the flank.
You gotta love it when the wingers come in and play flanker, right? It reminded me. There was I think England played a test last year, and Johnny May or someone came in, and Mako Vunipola was beating him, because he was up on his butt too high. The same thing happened today. The 14 from Utah comes in, and you could see the prop, getting them down, having, probably have never played flanker before.
No, and come on, guys, you're professional players now. At least practice once. That Johnny May one.
I don't know about that. We'll see. I don't know about that, but of course, now they're going to have to. Everyone's learning here how to get this thing done.
Oh, and that Johnny May one was hilarious. Not only does he get his shoulder wrong, but then he goes and grabs Vunipola's thigh, binding him.
Right, exactly.
Leave his leg. He has to use that to push. You can't grab his leg.
Yeah, exactly. It was great. Yeah.
Trying to tackle his own prop. No, that was humorous. Utah won that 10-minute period 5-3, which must have taken the wind out of. You'd have thought that would take the wind out of Houston's sail, and yet as soon as Utah gets back up to 15 men, Houston get the upper hand again and go charging forwards.
Right. Yeah. It was a confusing game. Both teams picked it up at the oddest times.
They picked it up. And one of the lovely ones you enjoyed doing previously, one of the other was how many lead changes we have. And this one we had a lot of lead changes. Yeah. So Houston led. Utah came back in the 12th minute. Houston took it over after 20 minutes. In the second half, Utah comes back. We then have, just after they get back up to 15 men, Houston take the lead, and then one final score for Utah to take back. So that's one of seven changes of lead in this game.
Right. No, it's great stuff. Very compelling game. You can talk, you can say what you want about the handling errors, and if you're looking, for the highest level of rugby, maybe we're not seeing that today with those handling errors. That does not take away from the fact that it's a very compelling game. And if you're a spectator for both teams or a player or, an administrator for both teams, you're into that thing for the full 80 minutes. It was great. It was a very compelling game. 7 lead changes. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, very good. And again, Patty turned up to be the basically the guy who won this for Utah. Utah attacked several times against Houston. Houston will hold them out, and then Patty makes the break that scores. Again, as I think Grant said on commentary, he didn't. There wasn't the space. He shouldn't have been able to get through, but he used his dancing feet and through he went, and scored this one. And I guess that's what we were talking about. Utah are a team of athletes, and Patty is one of those. And his individual brilliance is what actually gave what made the difference today.
And another candidate for best hair in the league is that right winger. Yeah, I didn't catch his name, but my word, I thought he was going to go in for a swan drive try. Hair would be flowing. We didn't get to see that, but we've got some competition for that award. And
I'm not sure whether he's wearing a scrum cap to try and to defend against all the cuts and grazes, or just to put his hair under control. I think it's more.
Oh, just love it! Just love it! God, you just love watching some of these players.
Oh dear, go to a barber, please. Then we came to that last 10 minutes that you want to talk about.
Yeah. Coach Killer there, man. I'm trying to think as if I was a teammate on the field there. What I'm thinking is guys are spilling balls, both ways, and just like, thank you, darn it, thank you, darn it. There must have been five turnovers in a 2-minute period there, followed by scrums right down there by the Utah line. Gosh, I thought Houston just gave it away. It was who wanted to give it away least that won that game, really.
Yeah, and then Utah basically, as soon as it got down to about sort of 5 minutes to go, decided, and they got their hands on the ball. Somebody, I don't know who it was, but it was the right call. Was like, guys, we're picking and going from now on. No more than one pass, just pick and go. Let's run the clock down. We're only 6 points ahead, so they have to go the length. A penalty is not going to do it for them.
Right.
They're going to have to go the length of the field, and that's what they did.
Right. One of the things that you see at the higher professional levels, the Premiership, the Top 14, the Pro 14, Super Rugby, whatever, is the ability to close out games. Taking the ball 2, 3, 4 minutes at the end, run through 20 or 25 phases, and run the game clock out. And that's a skill that teams need to learn, and it's a skill that players need to learn together. To be able to accomplish those type of small wins in the big picture of the game. And today, I think we should really commend Utah on closing out that game very, very effectively with 3 or 4 minutes to go. That was absolutely flawless, except until about 5 seconds left when they had to kick to touch that would have finished the game, charged down. And again, I was like, oh my gosh, who wants to give this game up more?
Yeah, no, that's and for a team that we talk about as perhaps being the most sort of individual orientated team, to see that unity and see that the way that that was coached was very good amongst the forwards.
Absolutely.
So definitely one there for them.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the tail of the game. Some of the things that came into it also was that Houston definitely had periods where their discipline let them down, and whilst the penalty count ended up being 10-9 according to my figures, it didn't feel that it felt that Houston was giving away more penalties than Utah during that game. So I think that's one of the things they need to work on. Is the penalty count. Even though Utah did pick up the yellow for a professional foul, and I guess for restarts we've talked about a few times, is something that people need to deal with.
Right.
But from Utah's point of view, was they clearly didn't. There was a drop in intensity when they came back to 15 men. They were like, "Yes, we've survived the 10 minutes." And it's like,
that's
no, guys.
Right. Yeah, no, it's Now it's the time, right?
Now's the time to get to actually go. We've got to pick it up because I'm sure you've said this plenty of times on the pitch. After you've just scored a point, it's like, guys, a hard 5 minutes now because we don't want to. And that's what they actually needed after that. After having the guy coming back was a hard 5 minutes to not let Houston back in after they had that victory, and unfortunately, they let their heads. They definitely lacked intensity for a bit there.
I definitely remember being on teams where we struggled with that, and it's a mental game. It's exponentially more of a mental game now than it was back in the day. So you can see the areas of the the mental requirement coming out, particularly again with the conditions, but also with some of the game conditions that are presented, like the Warriors closing out the game with 3 minutes left.
Yeah, no, those restarts. That's got to be partially mentally too. Both sides did it. I mean, we had kickouts on the fall by both teams. So that's it's something that generally the league needs to improve on. So, quick look at the table after that. Then Glendale Raptors obviously still sit top.
Yeah.
Seattle still sits comfortably in second place. Austin will now step. So then that 5 points takes Utah up to third place, just 1 point behind Seawolves. And did you say they travel? I know you're saying Seawolves travel down to
Houston next week.
Houston. So Utah up in third. Austin in fourth on 12 points. So then we've got Nola Gold and San Diego on 11, just 1 point behind Austin Elite. That's going to be really tight, that battle between those three for that final or for one of those
definitely
playoff spots.
Definitely. Well, let's again, as a Seawolves faithful, as a Whale faithful, this is a must-win tomorrow for the Sunwolves. They've got an ugly end of the year schedule going to Austin and Houston, and this is a huge game against the NOLA team that has surprised me. They've been up near the top of the table depending on how many games played, and NOLA's gotten the job done a few times. So it should be another tremendous battle tomorrow night.
Yeah, and so NOLA sat in fifth place now. So just 1 point outside the playoffs. Even a losing bonus point for them would be good. If they get a losing bonus point and a try bonus point, then maybe then even better.
Well, we won't even discuss that. We won't even discuss that possibility. But
no. Well, no, that's no. They can still lose. They can still lose and get 2 points. Is what I mean.
Of course.
One of the things that could be in NOLA's interest is to make this an open running game tomorrow, because 2 points would be enough to climb up into the playoffs,
definitely.
even with a loss.
Definitely.
So
definitely.
So hopefully that's what we'll see. NOLA on a minus 2 points difference shows that they have they generally don't lose big. So it's going to I expect it to be a tight game tomorrow night. And obviously, are you going to be calling tomorrow at the game, or are you just a spectator?
I'm not, unfortunately. I'm not. They actually got a professional in from the guy who does Key Arena and things like that. So I think that might be the Seattle Storm connection we have that Atavus has now. But no, I got a lot of positive feedback from it, and Shane asked me if I'd consider doing it next year. We're going to talk, and I'd absolutely love it. I had a ball. I made a few mistakes for sure. And as a woman pointed out on Twitter, but they were all well intended. Any mistake I made was well intended. I had an absolute ball. It was great, really great.
People are making mistakes, but everyone's doing it in the best interests of it. There were a couple of comments today on commentary that were inside jokes, and there was one comment about the Houston having one of the best kicking coaches, and I'm like, well, who is he then? And they didn't tell us. So I don't know who he is, but apparently. So we've got to remember that a lot of the
I like watching the Texas games with Grant Cole commentating, get that Texas twang going. He brings a little special flavor there.
Well, perhaps that needs to be part of the one of the rules now. You have to have a local accent commentator so that people can understand the different cultures in different parts of the USA.
Well, you can actually tell the commentating teams and the production teams are getting better. It's I think this is Pete Steinberg's first year. And the level of improvement he's made is fantastic. I mean, his analysis is excellent, but getting in front of that mirror, getting in front of the microphone must be very, very difficult when you have to do play-by-play. I couldn't even imagine it. But Power, Dallin Stanford, Mark Sherbina did a great job last week at the Seawolves game. Brian Hightower, Dan Power. It's all good.
And I think we should also do a shout out to the Seawolf pod. Not only is he doing podcasts about the Seawolves, he's also doing one pod a week looking at the rules to educate people. So if you want to learn more about the sport, his is a great podcast. Even if you're not a Seawolf supporter in the States, actually he's going to come on my.
Ray's a good. Go ahead. Sorry, mate.
I was going to say Ray's going to come on my and help me do my predictions next week. So look out for that on the YouTube channel.
Well, I got to do a couple of shows with Ray, and we had a lot of fun last week before the game, and we're going to hopefully meet there tomorrow. We got our little corner in the pub that overlooks Starfire Sports. It's a great place to meet before the game, and no, he's doing a great job up here. You know, he says some controversial stuff, but he's just he's taking the stance that he's going to be a Seawolves fan through and through, and no one's going to talk him off that ledge. And I love what he's doing. It's great. He's doing a super job. Nice young man as well. Really nice young man.
Cool. Any final points from the game that you'd like to?
No, just loving rugby in America. I didn't think I'd be so caught up in this. I've seen every game, not on replay. I've made myself available to watch it. I'm really excited to see how this goes into the June Test series. I'm sure Coach Gold and Dave Hodges and Greg McWilliams are just chomping at the bit to get some of these guys. And I think we're going to see some real benefit this year, but the real benefit's going to come after the Eagles go away, depending on what happens, and particularly next November when they've got some tougher games for sure. You come back to the next MLR season and the level is going to be really raised. And I think we can be pretty confident we're going to get through to next year, although who knows what the financial conditions of the league are. But I think just as a spectator, you got to be delighted with what's going on at the MLR. Regardless of your expectations, they should have been exceeded, and particularly what we've been seeing up here in Seattle has been absolutely off the charts. So, just delighted to be able to watch rugby in the USA every week.
Yeah, and I think this is not a 1-year project. This is a multi-year project. It's going to change over time, and it is going to grow. The plan is for it to grow. We hope it does. This season has been deliberately a bite size. Only one game against each of the other teams. It's going to be over before we know it, and there's going to be a lot of people sat around going, "I wanted more." But you're better off.
Absolutely, no.
You're better off taking a bite that you can actually achieve and achieving it properly, and then learning and growing from that. With potentially the addition of there's been talk of up to two to three teams joining next season.
What are you hearing, Paul? What are you hearing?
So obviously, New York is the one that has been very public about it, and they've said they're in it. It's been interesting.
They had their marketing manager Nish running around Seattle last week. Nice young man wearing the RUNY hat, kind of learning the lay of the land of the way Shane's doing it up in Seattle. So it's cool. The teams are working together. Teams are welcoming each other for best practices. It's great.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not going to be a New York supporter because I think they've got the name wrong. It's
very soccerish. It's very soccerish.
No. Okay, so Rugby United is a big account on Twitter, and they have pretty much accounts for all the countries and all the professional teams. So they have like 80 different Twitter accounts dedicated to different teams, all under the #Rugby United banner. So to take a brand that's an amateur brand that's so big in rugby. Unfortunately, I think
wow. So that it kind of comes under the question, who knew? And maybe that gets resolved in some way.
So, but I think they've been very they basically use, as you say, RUNY is how they're doing it, rather than talking about Rugby United per se. But I can see where they've got it from.
I'm going to have an opportunity to meet Bill Webb tomorrow from the Ontario Arrows, who's coming down to Seattle tomorrow. He's up. I think the game's just about to start. Yeah, it's probably 20 minutes into it. the Ontario Arrows are playing the Canadian select team in Vancouver, I believe. It's on Facebook Live right now. And Bill, I believe, is one of the founder/owners of the Ontario Arrows. He's coming down to Seattle. So I doubt his trip is philanthropic. He's going to. I'm sure they've got some meetings and things like that. So
yeah, he's not on vacation.
Very exciting stuff.
They're also
very exciting stuff.
They're the other ones that obviously are lined up to join. But they are they've very much said that this is a proof of concept season for them, and to see how it goes. So they're not as they're not sort of all cards in the same way that New York are, but on the assumption, and so far it's all looking good for them. They're the other team that's likely to be there. I mean, they've also already created themselves an academy that's taking part in the Canadian League, Canadian Academy League as well. So that so from that point of view, they're doing well. There's been talk of Vancouver. There's been talk of Chicago. There's been talk of a few others. Something like a Chicago or a Boston would be good because otherwise New York has got to travel a long way for all their games. But I think Chicago's the one that's more advanced there.
Right. No, there's definitely some rumors coming, but I think the Lions have a big history. But of course, that's as an amateur club, and it takes a whole different deal. Look what the Austin Huns did. Richard told me last night. They're very proud that they have a very young team. They're really going to try and build into it, and they took a lot of players from their amateur team, whereas the Seattle Seawolves are brand new. Although now they're getting filled in with some of the Saracens as the season goes on, and one of the things I think they've done well in Seattle now, and it started slowly, but it's picked up some momentum in the last 4, 6, 8 weeks, is the partnerships with the Seattle Saracens. A lot of that is due with the Saracens president Kevin Flynn, who's just a tremendous rugby man, offering the services of players, medical, things like that to help out the Seawolves. So that partnership is tremendous. It's just growing. And I'm sure that those type of partnerships will grow across the league.
Yeah, and
I do want to say,
Chicago were down to be in the league this season, but rightfully said, look, we're not ready yet. And rather than come in and fail, they said, no, let's step back and make sure we're properly ready to come in. So hopefully they can get it right, and they don't rush themselves. But yeah,
right. No, it's all exciting stuff. Washington D.C. Paul Sheehy's. They announced an MLR team, and I think that's officially been awarded. So the Washington team, the DC team, DC MLR is what they're going to call themselves.
Yeah, but they're more likely to be a 2020 rather than 2019.
Oh, that's right. Of course, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. And they're talking about the field and things like that. They'll make a great entrance. I mean, the spectator base in that Maryland, Virginia, Washington D.C. area is huge. Absolutely huge. They'll, with the rugby community alone, they could put 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people in there. So we'll see.
And also, Red, White, and Black Eye, the American Rugby Pod. Obviously, they're down in Atlanta, so they're chomping at the bit to try and get a team organised. Yeah. They don't quite have the same finances, but hopefully they'll get their own team to support as well. But yeah, not heard.
Well, look what they've done in soccer. Look what they've done in soccer in Atlanta. The first game they had 60,000 people. I think they've averaged over 50,000. Yeah, for a brand new MLS soccer team. Rugby's going to be there 10, 15 years. We're going to be talking 20, 30,000 people in stadiums. We are. So get ready for it. We just got to get to that stage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you got to say there are still Premiership teams that get. If you look at sort of like Newcastle, Worcester Warriors, they're down in the 5,000-6,000 people per game.
Gary, the men's national team, the Eagles coach Gary Gold told me the first game in Seattle, and he coached Worcester. He said we never had an atmosphere like this at Worcester.
Yep.
And that was the first Seawolves game ever. And I think that I personally learned a lot about, it's just sort of kickstarting a franchise, kind of what needs to do in the community, because we all really didn't know what to expect. And those guys went out and busted their butts selling tickets. Gary on the Seawolves staff, Carly, Achint, and Shane, they've just done a super job. But it's a business, and they had to go out there and work and sell, and they were making hundreds of calls a day, I understand.
And for them, it being a short season will be good because they actually get to have some time off afterwards.
Absolutely.
But it will only be a short break before they're back into organising again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So thank you very much for your time. It has been great to
chat. Man.
Chat yet again.
Absolutely.
Hopefully back next weekend for another couple of games. Unfortunately, this Sunday game is just happened during my work time. And that's just
right.
Work is just such a hassle. Otherwise, it would be good to.
I hate it when work gets in the way of. You hate it when work gets in the way of your rugby. I remember saying that. There's a chance. I was going to go to the Sevens in London for some rugby business stuff, but I may end up going. I may end up going down to Houston on the 2nd. Now, why you would want to go from beautiful Seattle to Houston in 100 degrees? I'd have to be wearing this jersey, so we'll see if we make the trip. But I look forward to doing a show with you next week, whether I'm at the ground or not.
Great. Catch you next week, and
Thanks,
and everyone enjoy whatever rugby you're watching.